this mid-morning, let us transcend hope and fear, or the duality of hope and fear, with meditation. There is a fundamental duality. It could be described as pushing and pulling. It could be described as hate and craving. It could be described as fear and hope. The problem in our lives, well, this is explored in the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth is there are stressors. Ask a biologist and they will tell you. There are circumstantial stressors, there are physical stressors, there are interpersonal stressors, there are mental stressors. Don't ask a psychologist. Ask an evolutionary biologist and they will tell you we evolved the ability to perceive stress as a survival mechanism. Stress is not a flaw. It's a feature that has kept our species alive. A species that is not the fastest nor the strongest. But we can cooperate and we can be clever. The second noble truth is that although we are relatively impotent in terms of galactic forces or universal forces at play, we do have one power, and that's the ability to exacerbate our stress. How do we exacerbate our stress? By turning the tool of our survival mechanisms into a character-defining obsession. When we are obsessed with controlling our circumstances, body, relationships, and mind, when we are obsessed with forever pushing and pulling, that is going to make us really, really neurotic. The third noble truth is that there is a way to experience freedom, not from the presence of our survival mechanisms to push and pull, but from their tyranny, so that they serve us and not control us. And that mechanism and that liberation is delivered to us by the Eightfold Path, which is described as the fourth noble truth. So there is a series of things we can do that do not depend upon the caprice of a real or imagined celestial daddy. When we practice, every time we breathe in, whether we know it or not, we are wired to effortlessly access our sympathetic nervous system. Now, our sympathetic nervous system has not evolved for active concentration. We do not benefit from active concentration. And when we try to practice active and concentration, it entrenches us even deeper in the quicksand of being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. A tale is told that when someone is in quicksand, the more they struggle, the deeper they sink, until eventually they die of dehydration, starvation, or predation. So, if our sympathetic nervous system did not evolve for active concentration, what then did it evolve to do? To perceive. And to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Every time we have evolved to perceive. We have evolved to perceive sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like, including mind, and its ability to emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine. We are able to perceive that which is beneficial and harmful. And once again, that's not a flaw, that's a feature of evolution. So we perceive duality. We perceive the hot and cold, the distant and the close, the pleasurable and the painful, the internal and the external, the physical and the mental, the interesting and the boring, the glorious and the grotesque. What do we do with all these things that we notice? Well, every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are wired to effortlessly access our parasympathetic nervous system. What has it evolved to do? It has evolved to physically relax and mentally release. Therefore, although some sites are pretty and some sites are ugly, when we run them through the mill of noticing and releasing, the beautiful and the ugly become just sights. Although some sounds are discordant and others are melodious, when we notice and release, they become just sounds. Although some sensations are painful and others are blissful, when we notice and release, they become just sensations. It is meditation, my friends, that transcends duality. And I look forward to meditating with you in approximately 1 minute. But first, let's time to tend to housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you who help support this channel on Patreon. If you love Star Wars and you wish to meditate as transformatively as Yoda on Dagobah under the guidance of the incorporeal Qui-Gon Jinn, be sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell. Good news. If at any point during this live stream you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question either in the chat window or the description area, either to the right or below the video, depending upon what type of device you're watching my funny face upon. And now, as promised, it's time to practice. This sadhana, or practice text, is my adaptation of arguably two of the Buddha's most popular discourses, or two of the most popular discourses to be attributed to the Buddha, who may have been real or may have been an archetype. And those two discourses are the Anapanasati and Metta Suttas. The Buddha taught an eightfold path, and right now we can train in right aspiration, right view, and right zeal, second, first, and sixth folds of the eightfold path with this easy chant. Together. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on the Buddha's example, instructions, and students. Having chanted empathy, let us now briefly meditate upon empathy. So our job is not to believe or emote or visualize. It's super simple. As we breathe in, we're going to wish, simply exercising our intention. We're going to wish that all circumstances of all beings experience good fortune. And we're going to use the monosyllabic synonym of good fortune, which is boon. As we breathe in, we're going to silently and mentally recite boon. As we exhale, we're going to silently and mentally recite all. And that's all we're going to do. We're going to play with these words in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation. We're now going to lovingly wish that all beings of all worlds experience the physical good fortune of optimal health. One moment, if you please. We are now going to lovingly wish that all beings everywhere and receive the interpersonal good fortune of peace. Let us now lovingly wish that all beings everywhere experience the interpersonal good fortune of love. Let us lovingly wish that all beings of all worlds now experience the pragmatic good fortune of happiness. Let us lovingly wish that all beings of all worlds now experience the idealistic good fortune of wisdom. In the Anapanasati, the Buddha taught 12 meditations and 4 contemplations for a total of 16 exercises that divide evenly into 4 sets of 4. We begin with Kaya Sati's only set of 4 preliminary meditations that center our bodies. Excuse me. We begin... that is interesting. We begin with the first of centering's 4 physical preliminary practices, where we mindfully notice and even investigate our relaxingly longer, gentle exhalations. We do this with the rhetorical question, the very concise rhetorical question, how long? We don't answer the question. All we do is silently and mentally recite these words in harmony with our inhalation and our exhalation and our relaxation. This is our first exercise of mindfulness, which is the first of 7 enlightenment factors. We come, where's my cursor? We come to the second of centering's 4 physical preliminary practices, where we mindfully notice and even investigate the coalescence of our invigoratingly sharper inhalations. It's not our job to force ourselves to adjust the length or duration of our breathing, nor speed of our breathing. All we do is silently and all we do is play with the words how and short. As silently and mentally we inhale and exhale and relax. But a fun fringe benefit of this exercise is invigoration, which is the third of 7 enlightenment factors. We come now to the third of centerings for physical preliminary practices, where we mindfully notice and even investigate our bodies. During the inhalation, we silently and mentally recite the sensory verb feel. And during the exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the noun form, which functions as a synonym of body. You'll notice that in addition to the painting of Ahsoka Tano meditating next to her speeder, we see two permutations of tantric lovers. This is to remind us that whenever these images appear in the text, that this is an exercise that applies well to tantric sex. Investigation is the second of 7 enlightenment factors, and that's pretty much the opposite of defensiveness. It replaces defensiveness with curiosity. We come now to the fourth of centerings for physical preliminary practices, where we allow our bodies to tranquilly relax. We do this during the inhalation by silently and mentally reciting the noun form, and during the exhalation by silently and mentally reciting the verb calm. Tranquility is the fifth of 7 enlightenment factors. Now, here's the cool thing. Just as perceiving is an effortless function occurring every time we breathe in, relaxing is an effortless function of our parasympathetic nervous system occurring every time we exhale. We continue with the Vedana Sati set of 4 jhana meditations that center our feelings. We begin with the first of 4 feeling-oriented centering practices, where we savor blissful joy. Where we savor the first jhana's invigorating, blissful joy that flows from gently grinning with the corners of our mouth, the apples of our cheeks, and the crow's feet of our eyes towards our bodies of flesh, blood, and bone. We do this during the inhalation by silently and mentally reciting the verb grin, and during the exhalation by silently and mentally reciting the noun form. We come to the second of 4 feeling-oriented centering practices, where we savor the second jhana's peaceful joy. That flows from gently grinning once again with the corners of our mouth, the apples of our cheeks, and the crow's feet of our eyes towards our thoughts. Emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining. And of course, we're using the word noun thoughts as an umbrella term. Again, as we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the verb grin. This time, as we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the umbrella term thoughts. We come to the third of 4 feeling-oriented centering practices, where we savor the third jhana's contentment by mindfully noticing, investigating, and coalescing our thoughts, emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining. Coalescing is what happens when our air pulls into our lungs, fills our lungs as we breathe in, while silently and mentally we recite feel. This coalescence is the 6th of 7 enlightenment factors. During our exhalation, we silently and mentally recite the umbrella term, thoughts. We come to the 4th of 4 feeling-oriented centering practices, where we savor the 4th jhana's neutrality by allowing our thoughts, emoting, intending, reasoning, recalling, and imagining to tranquilly relax. How do we do this? As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the umbrella term thoughts. And as we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the verb calm. And that is enough. For remember, we are already wired by natural selection. I should say our parasympathetic nervous system is already wired by natural selection to lavish our minds with release and our bodies with relaxation during every exhalation. Welcome to this mid-morning live stream. If at any point you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them to your life, simply type your question in great detail in either the chat window to the right of the display or below it, or the comment area, which will be available for the replays. Right now, I invite you to write me and tell me what your primary motivation is in meditating. We continue with Chitta Sati's second set of 4 jhana meditations that center our mind. We begin with the first of 4 mind-oriented centering practices, where we savor the 5th jhana sphere of infinite spaciousness by mindfully noticing, investigating, and coalescing our mind's ability to see, hear, feel, taste, smell, and the like. And of course, we're using the term mind, the noun mind, as an umbrella term. So as we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the sensory verb feel. And as we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the umbrella term mind, allowing me to remind you that feeling is effortless because thanks to our sympathetic nervous system, every time we inhale, we are wired to notice. We come now to the second of 4 mind-oriented centering practices, where we savor the 6th jhana's sphere of infinite awareness, which we generate by allowing mind to invigoratingly gladden. As towards it we gently smile, once again from the corners of our mouth, the apples of our cheeks, and the crow's feet of our eyes. As we breathe in, we silently and mentally recite the verb grin, and as we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the umbrella term mind. We come now to the third of 4 mind-oriented centering practices, where we savor the 7th jhana's sphere of non-graspability. As we allow our minds, seeing, hearing, feeling, tasting, smelling, and the like, to tranquilly relax in the most sustainable way. We come now to the 4th of 4 mind-oriented centering practices, where we savor the 8th jhana sphere of acquiescent non-labeling by experiencing the liberating equanimity of our controlling tendencies to push and pull. This equanimity, where we rest in the center point between all extremes, is the 7th enlightenment factor. As we breathe in, once again, we silently and mentally recite the umbrella term mind, and as we exhale, we silently and mentally recite the verb free, remembering that this is effortless for our parasympathetic nervous systems have evolved to mentally release during each exhalation. We end our practice of Anapanasati with Dhammasati, or Anika Vipassanas, set of 4 impermanence contemplations to help us circumstantially let go. We begin with the first of 4 contemplations. Oopsie, let's try this again. We begin with the first of four contemplations, where we invigoratingly consider coarse impermanence. We come now to the second of four contemplations, where we consider subtle impermanence, with the words wear, fade. We come now to the third of four contemplations, where we consider very subtle impermanence. As silently and mentally we recite the rhetorical question, where cease? We conclude with the fourth of four contemplations, where we consider relinquishing, surrendering, and letting go. As silently and mentally we recite the words, where? Yield. Now let us seal our practice. Let us lovingly wish that all beings of all worlds now experience the idealistic good fortune of happiness. Let us lovingly wish that all beings of all worlds now experience the pragmatically physical good fortune of health. Let us lovingly wish that all beings of all worlds now experience the pragmatically interpersonal good fortune of harmony. Let us lovingly wish that all beings of all worlds now experience the idealistically interpersonal good fortune of love. Let us lovingly wish. Oopsie. Let us lovingly wish. Oopsie. There we go. Let us lovingly wish that all beings of all worlds now experience the pragmatically mental good fortune of happiness. Let us lovingly wish that all beings of all worlds now experience the idealistically mental good fortune of wisdom. Let us seal our practice by exercising right communication, conduct, and commerce's third, fourth, and fifth folds of the Eightfold Path. May all beings practice have communication, conduct, and commerce less spontaneous and uncontrived. And we conclude with right view and right intentions, first and second folds of the Eightfold Path. May everyone be free from misery, may everyone be happy. May no one be separated from the happiness. May everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. If you feel that I have earned it, you could type something in the chat window. You could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could share it with a friend. You could even help support this channel on Patreon. In approximately 3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead this afternoon's lesson and meditation. Until then, may you and yours be happy and healthy. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.